Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Organic Podcast. I'm your host, Reagan. Today's episode is going to be different. It's going to be extremely intuitively by design, very much in the flow of just like my thoughts, because every other episode I've recorded before this has been planned out. I have put intentional thought into them. Obviously, I'm still putting thought into this one, but I'm just so deeply called to make this one so much flow state. I feel like it's going to be very channeling vibes. So this episode is going to dive into kind of my experience in my personal development journey, but moreover, the whole concept of creating a change of self concept, even improving upon daily habits or small things, just the general topic of life transitions between versions of yourself, between different habits, like everything involved under the umbrella word of just change, because I feel like I've been in a fucking vortex for the past maybe like 4 or 5 months. I don't know if I mentioned that on any past episodes, but I feel like I have been in a vortex of change. Feels like it's not slowing down. I feel like I am treading new waters in terms of my self-expression and just like pretty much every single aspect of my life. And I've been trying to put more effort into reflecting on my past experiences, my past version of self, and honoring that, showing respect for that before I just jump full force into this newer way of being that I've kind of transitioned into by both my own accord, my own efforts, and very much so just like naturally with the seasons of life that I'm going through and the energies at play. And like, you guys are going to see a different side of me this episode. We'll get into that. But yeah, I feel like I've just needed to take time to reflect on the past and figure out how I even got here in the first place, because, you know, I say you're going to see a different side of me or a version of me. Not like I've been hiding it at all. It's not like anything that's crazy, fucking insane. But there definitely, I'll just say there's such a deeply intuitive, more spiritually leaning, just like divine inner knowing side to me, on top of also the logical engineer in me as well. And that side of me, I've been afraid to bring out to the public because I feel like not as much strangers, but more so the people closest to me, my biggest fear is that they will see me in a different way. They will think I'm crazy. They will think that I'm like looking too much into the woo-woo and I've gone fucking haywire solo mode and now I'm just going to go frolic in the woods with like fantasy animals and chant to the moon. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the vibe. And I know that. But, like, my fears are really coming into play when it comes to how to integrate and balance both sides of me that I feel like are two sides of the same coin, but they feel like opposites. The logical side of me and the very intuitive side of me, which has to do... The intuitive side of me is what got me here today. Like, the inner knowing, the calling, like, the following the nudges, that is what got me where I am. In a much better place in life with this podcast, sharing all these things. Like, I would not have gotten here if I did not have already this like deep internal knowing that I feel like I was just born with. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Organic Podcast. I'm your host, Reagan, mechanical engineer, lifelong athlete, and recovered overachiever, here to empower you to pursue your highest potential and live freely as your happiest, most organic self. Every week, we'll dive into topics ranging from personal growth, mindset hacks, psychology, and a blend of science and spirituality to give you all the tools you need to stop living on autopilot and start creating a life of freedom, meaning, and fulfillment as your most organic self. If you're ready to become the best version of yourself, then let's plant those seeds and grow. All right, you guys, if this is the first episode you're ever listening to for this podcast, fucking welcome. You're getting a deep dive first episode. I went more into my story in terms of my backstory and everything in the first episode. And trust me, guys, I really do feel like the information I'm just going to share today, even though it's more personal and specific to me, like, I really feel like there's going to be a lot in here that you can reflect into, like, integrate into your own life and kind of just think about more, you know? It's not all about me here. This isn't me on a pedestal. Haha, you should care about every single thing that's ever happened in my life. Like, I want this to serve you guys, but I also know. Guys, so I laugh. Oh my god, I laugh because okay, the deep internal knowing intuitive side of me just feels so so connected to like my inner knowing, the soulful version of myself, and like I was raised religious. I still would say that I'm religious. You know, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I am a Christian, and I also know that I have always felt like there was another side to it that doesn't necessarily counteract religion or Christianity or like my beliefs at all. There's just definitely more internal knowing that I came into this world with than I think the average person does. And I do not say that, pause, time out. Do not say that as like, I know more than everyone else. I mean that, and like, literally since I was a child. Since I was a child, I always had this internal gut intuitive knowing that I was made for some type of bigger impact. I came here for a bigger reason than the main subscription that we're sold of like the quote unquote ordinary life. Let me clarify. Nothing wrong with living a quote unquote ordinary life. The whole point to life, I feel, is to be happy and to enjoy it and be present and like actually live freely for yourself, by your own accord, with your own beliefs, with the people you love. And if that looks like the standard, quote unquote, standard path in life and the 9 to 5 for however long you want to work until you retire and then you like are in comfort and peace, there is nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I like, believe me, truly, there's nothing wrong with that. Me saying that I feel like I was quote unquote made for more does not mean that there's anything wrong with the path that is quote unquote average, right? Okay, think you guys get the point. But I've had this internal knowing since I was a child. This is so fucking wild to say. Like, I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm an engineer. I'm a logical, like, thought, math, science, STEM-oriented engineer. I've always had that side to me. And at the same time, I've always had this internal knowing of, like, I was here. I've been called here for a bigger path, a bigger purpose, a bigger impact. And it's just so, it's so crazy for me to say, and I keep laughing because it doesn't really scare me. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. What makes me uncomfortable and scared is the thought of how other people are going to take that. And other people, I don't know, having the perception that I think I'm better than other people or, like, have this magical, mystical knowing that's, like, superior to the average person. That's really not how it is. It feels more like, I don't want to say that. I almost said with great power comes great responsibility, like Spider-Man. But okay, before I lose you guys, the logical side of me has always been very scared of it, even just like judgmental towards myself, of like me thinking that I had this like extra heightened sensitivity, intuition, ability to kind of tap into the more otherworldly, ethereal, spiritual side. Okay, like, definitely two polarities at play in my system, which is so fitting for my personal makeup. If you're not, like, astrology, human design, life path number, those three things I think are monumental to look into if you are actually called for interested in seeing, like, the blueprint that your soul left on this planet for being here. That might sound really ethereal and spiritual, but I guess that's kind of the whole point that I'm trying to make here is, like, I have dove so deep into these topics. I have looked so deeply into my personal makeup, my internal knowing, and all of these things make so much sense to me. They make so much sense, and they feel good. They feel like they come from a good place and, like, pure part of my heart. They don't feel like this evil, mystical, witchy kind of vibe. I think you get what I'm saying. But my life path number is an 11. This is technically a master number. Every single thing in my human design, in my natal chart, in my life path number, everything is basically essentially the balancing of like two polarities in my life. It feels like I'm very much so called to balance logic and intuition, the more spiritual side, the higher realms above us, etc., and the grounded 3D reality that we're living in right now. I'm laughing again because I feel like this episode is so just diving. I don't know how to ease into that, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know how to ease into being like, yeah, so I feel like I have a really deep spiritual knowing of like what actually happens and like spirit guides and your soul self and your higher self and like what you actually came here to do and your soul's mission and the fact that like we exist beyond just this physical 3D plane and like there are other things beyond just like the realm of comprehension that we have as human beings. I'm sorry, I don't think there's like a kind way, not kind, I don't think there's an easy way to say that. You don't really bring that up at the dinner table. Like, you don't really get existential with people like that. But it's so fucking true to me and my knowing. So I bring all this up because my quote-unquote personal development journey started by coming across Instagram posts targeted towards people who are kind of, you know, on a self-improvement journey, learning more about themselves. Like, I had kind of just started seeing content on Instagram. It probably started with, like, gratitude and things like that, because I was very much so someone who would always say, you know, be grateful for this, be grateful for this, don't speak negatively about other people, like, be kind. Very much motherly vibes. I had that in me. And around that time, this was December 2023. This was after the busiest fucking year of my entire life. If you want to hear about it, listen to episode 1 where I'm sharing my story. But this is after like such a busy semester, but I'm getting more into space to have my own time to like explore my inner world, my inner path, whatever. And around this time too, I would sometimes, when I was at school, I would go to this spot on campus that's really good for stargazing. I've always been very much into astronomy. I have an astrophysics minor. Like, I was always very called to learn more about like our universe. I know a lot of constellations. Like, I always felt more of this calling connection to just like the night sky. And that doesn't have to be a super spiritual woo-woo thing. Like, I love being out looking at stars. Like, I don't know. I love space. I love the universe. You get the point. And there were nights that I would go out there around this time where I was kind of starting to see posts on Instagram. I was like kind of, you know, exploring more of myself, my internal world, kind of questioning the way that I've been living, so stressed out, so busy, so just like constantly overwhelmed with too much stuff. Like, I knew this shit was not gonna fly for much longer. Like, I was actually gonna explode and dissolve. Thankfully, around this time, like, I actually had more time to do that. I think I already just said that, but anyways, I would go to the spot on campus to stargaze, and this might sound weird, but it helps me sometimes if I'm feeling overwhelmed or just like questioning my life path and just like confused and whatever. It helps me just talk aloud to myself, to just voice my fears, voice my concerns, and I would go stargaze there by myself in like the dead of fucking winter in December, like November, December, and I would just speak. And I remember this one specific night where I directly addressed the fact that like I always knew that I was being called for something that was like more, and I trust that, and I don't understand everything that's going on right now, and I feel overwhelmed, but like I trust that there is a guiding beacon of light that has always been here for me, that I have always known about. Like, I'm not making this shit up. The whole point of this episode is not to prove myself, but I'm telling you guys, just in case you were wondering, I'm not making this shit up. I'm not saying, wow, I was an 8-year-old ethereal little butterfly just like saying that I was meant for mystical things. Like, it's not even like I ever voiced it. It was just a deep, deep, deep-seated internal knowing. And this night on the hill, stargazing, like voicing it out loud, I think that was probably one of the first times that it felt so real. It felt like an actual tangible thing because I had actually addressed it with my words through my voice, just like speaking to the fucking stars and nature about how I always felt like I had this bigger calling and something that was beyond me, that I was either made here to help people with, to bring into the world, to like bring balance, whatever. And now where I am, it's making a lot of sense. But anyways, that night was influential because December 2023, we're still following the timeline. I know I'm kind of scattered right now, but December 2023, around the same time with the stargazing and me like addressing that I always had this like internal gut knowing, etc., I came across an account, Monica motherfucking Yates. Monica Yates. She has a podcast called Feminine as Fuck. And let me tell you, when I saw her Instagram post for the first time, it was a post that came across my feed related to this like personal development, like I told you guys before, how I'd kind of been seeing them on my feed. So like my algorithm was kind of already programmed to like the self-improvement kind of stress reduction, personal development kind of world in which Monica falls. And a post of hers came across my feed, just like on Reels, again, December 2023, where she was talking about how, women are happier when they feel both empowered and also know that they can count on their man to lead them. And let me tell you guys, Little Miss Reagan was a Little Miss fucking Independent for my whole life. I still am. I'm like fighting these battles in my head to like release control. But when I first saw that, I had something so deeply rooted in my brain that was just like, fuck no. Fuck no. What the fuck is this bitch talking about? Like, that's not feminist. That's not women empowerment. She's saying that we should be small. She's saying that like blah 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 blah. Like that's fucked up. That's fucked up to say. Like, I don't know. It wasn't me though. It wasn't like my like soul's knowing speaking through me. It was like conditioned learning to be like, no, that's wrong, which is so much proof that that's just like our societal structure to, kind of lead us so far astray from our kind of like dominant polarity, so to say, as men and women, which is not to say that women belong in the kitchen and men need to work and blah, 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 blah. Like, no. If you actually listen to the words Monica says on her podcast and like do a deep dive, then like you'll understand what I'm talking about. But anyways, that was the first post I ever saw of hers, and I was like, fuck that. Fuck this bitch. Like, I don't agree with that. Scroll past it. Another post of hers comes up. I don't know if it was about men and women polarities and dynamics, but it was something along the lines of something I'd actually give her a little more time for. So she came up on my feed again, randomly, like just in Reels, because I didn't follow her. Obviously, I was like, fuck her. And I actually said, you know what? I'm going to give her a little bit of my time. I'm going to give her some of my attention. I'll look into this. That led me down a not giant rabbit hole, but December 2023, I started actually, reading her Instagram posts. I started listening to her podcast, which she's had for like years and years now. So I binged the podcast where she talks a lot about a lot more than just like masculine feminine dynamics, and I do think what she has to say is like a really important message for the world and like happiness overall for both men and women to be living like in their most empowered version of self, where women can still be powerful and independent, and also men can feel like they have more of a purpose providing, and women don't have to feel like they're carrying the whole fucking weight of the world, like controlling everything, being so stressed out all the time, like whatever. Anyways, point being, a lot of what Monica had to say resonated with me. And this isn't to say that Monica is like my deity and she's like my saving grace and like God to me. It's to say that she is the voice of the messages I was supposed to hear, and she's the person that I was meant to hear them from. They're universal messages. If you listen to enough people who talk about like personal development, self-improvement, you'll come to see even the people who are more spiritual versus the people who are much more like analytical or technical or logical and base things in psychological proof and like self-actualization, things like that. You will see that there are trends and like there are just universal truths to all of the messages these people are saying for ways to live a better life. And Monica is one of those people. The way that she channels through her words is the best way I was meant to receive it. So listening to her podcast, it was not like, it did not make me feel good. It did not make me feel rainbows and butterflies and comfortable. It triggered the fuck out of me because it shined a giant light on the areas of my life where I was not living in line with like where I was meant to be. And I fucking knew it too. Like I literally knew it. Why? Like I knew something was off. I say that in my first episode. I knew something was off, but I didn't really listen. Like I didn't know what to do with that. What the fuck is I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand why. And listening to her podcast, kind of getting more into that world of like the personal development space, which I low-key hate that word because I feel like it just, I don't know, I feel like it's just assumed to be something that is so like you just write it off as fake, but like I don't know a better way to say like self-improvement or personal development, whatever, but learning more about why I was so attached to my hyper-independence or like the ability to let other people help you, and like learning how to receive and how your brain actually works, like learning all of these things, and basically like how your subconscious mind is the basis programming for like your entire life. Like, she introduced me to so many of the basic topics that were fundamental for changing my sense of self, my way of being for the better, to become more authentically myself, to like shed the layers of shit from other things that I learned from like societal conditioning or childhood or whatever it is. Like, that information helped me come back to myself more than anything I have ever been listened to before. You know what I mean? So I listened to Monica for the next like 3 or 4 months. I understand more of a scope. I like start making some changes in my life. I start reflecting on stuff. I'm like, oh shit, this doesn't feel good. Like, I feel like I should change this. This isn't serving me. This isn't whatever, blah, blah, blah. And again, Monica's not my deity here. Like, I had more going on to my life. I understood more of like the full scope of things. She kind of just really opened my eyes to everything. And I bring her up because she then, around I think March, she was launching a 3-day in-person event that she's done before for like a healing thing, essentially trauma healing. If you deep dive Monica's work, you'll understand like trauma isn't just an individual event. It's like blah, 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 all this stuff. Again, essentially the event in my eyes was something to clear out old beliefs and things that have stored themselves in the subconscious, in the body, etc., that are running your life. And I was like, shit, this feels like it would actually be like a really helpful thing for me to go to based on everything that I've learned. And like, Monica's she has very high integrity. Like, she's not some random stranger who's just like scamming people on the internet. But to anyone on the outside perspective, like, it looks fucking crazy because what ended up happening is I was considering going to that event, and it was not fucking cheap. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but like the personal development world, shit usually isn't cheap for people, especially who have been doing this for like years and years and years and have like a million testimonials, like actually help people's lives. It's not cheap. It's not. And that's also by design, because if something is within your comfort zone for investing, like, you're not going to be as committed to it, which sounds kind of like a like gotcha or whatever it is, because it's like, oh, I have to make it expensive so that you feel uncomfortable so you grow. Like, okay, it means you just upcharge me for like who knows how much money just to say that I'm growing. You know what I mean? I understand that perspective, but it absolutely is true that when you stretch your upper boundaries for like how much you've invested in yourself, like, God, the universe responds in kind with like investing back into you just as much, and I'll explain that. So anyways, to loop this back together, my night stargazing, speaking aloud to myself that I always knew I had this like internal gut knowing that I was meant for more, all this stuff coming together, Monica shedding light on the ways of my life that I just knew like there was more to life than what I was living. And a lot of that came from shedding all the shit that was not mine. And I saw this event as a way for me to like fucking catapult launch myself into that, because I had never invested in myself before. Like, what the fuck? No, tell me what 21-year-old in their senior year of college is investing like thousands of dollars in themselves to go to an event that they saw after listening to some lady on Instagram's podcast for 6 months. Like, sorry, are you clinically insane? That's how I felt, and that's why I barely told anyone about this. So the fact that I'm talking about this right now unfazed is honestly kind of crazy. But I really don't care. Again, looping this back together, if you are following along, the night stargazing, the internal knowing, guided me to have another night stargazing, as per usual, where I was reflecting on whether or not I should really go to this event, because it was so out of my comfort zone. It was nothing I'd ever done before. It seems crazy to anyone on the outside. Like, it's a fucking ridiculous thing. And I don't think I was at Horsebarn again. That's where I stargazed. But I remembered that night when I was making my decision, and I was reflecting on it. And I remembered saying to myself, voicing out loud what I had known for so long, that like I was meant for more. I was meant to experience more and like bring more into this world, like bigger things than myself. And that internal knowing was like the rooting guide for me to be like, there's a reason I'm being called to this. There's a reason that all this happened. Nothing happens by coincidence. Like, there is a fucking reason for this. And as crazy as it sounds, like, I genuinely think I really am being called to go to this. Like, I should go to this. I kind of like, now I feel like not that I have to go out of obligation, but it's like I owe it to myself to go to this, to stretch my comfort zone, to like fucking catapult myself into this world of like quote unquote healing and everything because of this internal knowing, because I knew that it was like, you do not get somewhere where most people are not by doing things that most people will do. And as crazy as it fucking sounds, for me to have done that, in doing so, I truly do believe that I pushed myself to like a different zone of being, like my comfort zone was expanded because I forced myself to. And I don't think that I would be where I'm at right now with nearly the same, I don't know, knowing, the same kind of energy, the position that I'm in, how far along I am with, I feel, on my journey so far. Quote unquote, the journey is like your whole life, but I feel like I would not be where I am if all these things did not happen in this way, and they happened the way they did based on the internal deep-seated knowing that I had, that it was connected to my higher purpose. So I know I've been a bit all over the place. Hopefully you guys are following along. Essentially, order of events, main picture, is 1, always had an internal knowing that I had this like deeper spiritual higher connection to having a bigger purpose on earth to help people and serve people and like guide in some way. 2, this internal knowing, voicing it out loud, set an anchor for me to know that it was real and I'm not just making it up, and that like it actually is true, that like the feeling that I was quote unquote meant for more was not just like some fleeting little cloud in the distance. Like it's a very real integral part of me. And this is further confirmed by the research and work that I've done, deep diving like all of my personal information, like in terms of the more quote unquote woo woo stuff. Even though I'm absolutely gonna do an episode on the fact that like your birth chart and your human design, your life path number, things that are very specific to like so much information and data just based on like your date, time, location of birth. That's not something that's just bullshit. Hence the whole connection to that being like, I feel like part of my design is being here to help people who might think more logically and be more of like the engineering side of me, or like the quote unquote like average way of thinking that's not very woo woo, help those kind of brains conceptualize and understand the more like woo woo stuff in a way that's not woo woo, so you can see how it actually serves you and helps you and can like really guide you, not run your life, but help you guide your life and like give you permission and insights into ways you can actually be living more aligned intentionally for yourself. So anyways, tangent on that, point being, always knew in my design that like I was here to like balance these energies. Like it's very much in line with the the like spiritual knowing, etc., that I have, like just the bigger picture knowing that I have. So I think it was 3. This internal knowing then led me to have more confidence in the fact that I was meant for more when I was presented with an opportunity to do something very much out of my comfort zone that I think would lead me to a place that was much more expansive and aligned than where I had been, based on things that I had my mind opened up to, specifically by Monica and also other people, and podcasts and deep diving, just like fucking everything that you could possibly listen to on podcasts. I love podcasts so much. Like podcasts are what taught me so much information that I'm glad to have and learn and like integrate into my life because it serves me for the better. And like I have probably listened to like thousands of hours of podcasts. Hence why I have one. I just love this format of communication and talking, and like not, I know right now, like in this moment, the people who may or may not listen to this episode when it comes out tomorrow will, be listening to every single word I say of every single episode. And like, not everyone's going to be hearing this, but like the people who are, I know how much it means. So like, I don't know, like podcasts are like piecemeal almost in terms of the things that you get out of it and the value. Like you don't have to listen to every single episode all the way through like perfectly or whatever just to get something out of it. So I know that. But anyways, learning more on podcast, going through this whole deep dive into pretty much everything in like the personal development space and actually changing my life for the better to be less stressed out, less like independent, like hyper independent in an unhealthy way, and like more able to receive and like open my mind to like the expansiveness that I already knew existed in the world within me, like in different spaces and like ways of thinking. All of that happened as a domino effect, specifically after I like really took the chance investing in this 3-day event. Now, I know this is already a bit of a longer episode, so we're gonna have to do a part 2 when it comes to actual things that you could, ways to implement change in your life that are more actionable, I would say. Like, more of the, Atomic Habits, like, Cliff Notes kind of vibe of, like, real things you could bring into your life that doesn't require you to read 1,000 books. Instead, I can just tell you everything I've learned about, like, actually making change in your life, hence I had, like, the ways that I have and, like, things that actually serve you and things that make sense, etc. That's going to probably be in a part 2 episode. Or just, like, a different episode next week. But just to give you guys a little overview of, like, what happened after that event, let me just say, this is tea. Like, this is really tea. If you're still here, you're getting the good stuff right now, because I invested in this event. Number one, it was being held in 2 different locations, like 2 separate groups, like 2 different 3-day events, the same event, just in 2 different locations. One of them was in Paris. One of them was in New York City, which is far more doable, believe it or not, as someone who lives in the US. And she was sending out an email for, like, last tickets, that kind of thing. Like, I didn't even get in on, like, the first opening of, like, tickets to the event. I think she sold them back in the fall before I even listened to anything of hers. And this event in the spring was, like, a last minute thing. They only had a few more tickets left. Like, it was kind of low-key divinely aligned. So she was sending out this email. I, like, committed to it. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm literally gonna do it. I don't care how expensive it is, because, like, I'm being called to it, and it's meant for me. Like, I have the money, I'm able to do this. Like, no, it doesn't really make sense, but, like, that's kind of the whole point. Because you can't expect things, like, such good things that happen to you that don't make sense in your life to happen if you don't also, like, act in a way where you're trusting that, like, yes, this doesn't make sense, but, like, I know it's going to work out and bring me so much more good in the end. And hence why I say you get rewarded for taking risk on those actions. So, anyways, this email is getting sent out at, like, 6 p.m. or something. I had a class on Mondays. It was, like, like 1-2.5 hour class once a week for this one class. And it was, like, in the middle of the class, this email was coming out. Thankfully, it was a more chill class, because it was, like, my most chill semester of college, like, after my crazy year before. Because this was spring of 2024. And came out in the middle of class. Like I said, 2 different locations. New York City, Paris was the other one. I don't think I said that. They're in different squares for, like, a payment plan versus, like, pay in full. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, immediately, since I knew there weren't that many tickets left, and I was, like, committed to it, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. So I, like, immediately when this email went out, I was like, I don't know how hot these tickets are. Like, I'm not taking any risks. I fucking committed to it. Like, I'm doing it. Guys, I hit the fucking Paris. I hit the Paris option. And I, like, didn't even realize it, obviously. Like, went through with everything. It was fine. Everything was, like, rainbows, butterflies, sunshine. And then I see the fucking email that's like, you're in for the Paris immersion. I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is the most amount of money I had ever spent on myself. Ever. Like, this. And you're telling me that I just bought one of the last tickets for this event in fucking Paris. Like, obviously I meant to buy the New York one. Oh my god. So that was already an aneurysm in the first place, and I was, like, actually going fucking insane for the next day, trying to make sure that, like, the New York tickets weren't sold out, that I could get in. Thank God. Everything worked out. It was fine. I switched to the New York one. But that's funny in the first place. Second, after making this investment in, like, March, I want to say, I randomly was at, like, a UConn Big East game. Saw one of my old coworkers at, like, an employee booth, and they were doing a raffle for gift cards, whatever. Like, it was very much coincidence that I saw the coworker. Like, she was someone that I'm, like, she was super sweet. Like, she was with me in my internship a couple years before, etc. So I was like, oh, okay, since, like, we were talking, we were chatting, catching up, I just entered the raffle. I was like, I don't really care. I don't know. I usually don't do this shit. Mind you, again, this is after I make this investment, after I make this ginormous leap, and it's, like, fucking scary. The event hasn't even started. It has not even started. Like, not even close to it. Like, 3 months away. 2 months away? 2 months away. 3? I don't fucking know. And entering this raffle, like, haphazardly, don't really care, I fucking won the grand prize. I won a grand prize $500 fucking gift card from that. One person out of probably hundreds, if not like nearly 1,000 people out of like everyone who was there for like the whole day across like 4 different quarterfinal Big East games. Like, I was the one person who won. Sorry, that's not a fucking coincidence. Like, that's actually bizarre. That's crazy. Never had anything like that happen to me before. It felt very much like divine alignment and being like gifted in response to taking that chance on myself, which I already mentioned before. Like, you know how like God, the universe, responds in kind when you actually take chances on yourself and like take big leaps. Like, you get big rewards back. And this was like very much an energetic kind of like, I made a commitment to myself. Like, I showed God, look, this is what I'm doing. Like, I'm actually taking action. I'm putting skin in the game. Like, I'm investing money into myself, like money, time, energy into myself intentionally to like respect myself in that way and show myself that I'm worth like that much, at least to like, you know, live a better way of life. And that happened. I want to say there were a few more like small things like that where nothing on the scale of like fucking a random $500 gift card that I didn't even think about or have any intentions of winning. Most importantly though, I'm so glad that I found Monica when I did, and I learned all of these things, and I started going down these positive rabbit holes of like self-improvement and learning to receive and understanding like what the true power of like actually being a woman and not having shame around that, and just like a lot of stuff that I'm really glad that I know now, because I feel like in my relationship I can show up a lot better and I can get a lot more enjoyment out of things that I probably would have pushed away if I was like so hyper independent still, which I still kind of am, but like I'm a lot better than I was. Anyways, after this event, within like 2 months, not even, like a month and a half, I find my soulmate, my literal soulmate. Like, I know, like, with confidence beyond what words can measure. Like, literally, it's not even a question in my mind. Like, I knew from the beginning, too. Found my soulmate. Guess where? Fucking Tinder. 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 An app that I am very much so not, like, a Tinder girly. Definitely not. I had it in college, like, for the late fall semester, and then the spring semester as well, obviously. And I was never someone who was, like, feverishly swiping, but, like, I wasn't on it for hookups, I wasn't on it for anything like that. It was kind of just, like, a whatever, I'll just fuck around, like, it's everyone's on a college campus, I set my, like, proximity thing to, like, really small, because I was like, whatever, it's fine, like, I'll just see what comes of it, I don't really care that much, and wasn't expecting to find my future husband. But we matched on Tinder in like April of 2024, which is again like a month and a half ish after I invested in this program. Literally insane. Like, actually insane, because him and I, guess what, guys? Guess what? We literally had a class together. We were in the same major all throughout college. I didn't have a class with him until the very last semester, the one in which we met. We met on fucking Tinder. We have so many, like, overlapping friends and people we know of. And also, our interests, our values, our, like, beliefs, like, everything, like, the really important stuff is so deeply aligned. And we complement each other so, like, it is so indescribable. Like, we say to each other all the time, like, I genuinely just doesn't feel real sometimes. Genuinely doesn't. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I don't know. Like, I literally just think, like, how can this be real? I don't know. It's crazy. And that happened, again, like a month and a half after. So all of this domino effect just from this one investment in myself leads to like a whole new world of like expansion and like alignment and opportunities opening up for me after I chose to make a commitment to myself to invest. And like the biggest flow-on effect from that event was not the fact that like me going there, me like learning more about myself, like actually going through modalities or like releasing trauma from my body. Like, I literally had sore muscles from somatic releasing. So if you think that shit's fake, like, it is fucking real. Like, it is real. But like that one commitment, fueled by the internal knowing I've always had, led me to so much expansion and like put me down such a path that I know was like exactly where I was supposed to go, like exactly where I was meant to be. And I guess I wanted to share this just because I've never voiced it out loud, like I said before, I've never really talked about it, and I still feel almost like this wall of hesitation. I fear that wall has been shattered after this episode, but I've had this wall of hesitation to talk about things like that, or like my internal knowing, or more spiritual side, or like spirit guides and my channeling and like whatever, because I feel like people automatically think like, first, either it's like anti-religious, or it's evil, or it's like witchcraft, or it's woo-woo, or it's crazy, or you're like, I don't know, that I'm not a real logical engineer because I'm like putting more, I don't know, not power, but like putting more energy into actually, reflecting on these things or thinking about these topics. But like at the same time, I know so deeply in my soul that this shit's real, and I've always known, and that's like, again, my anchor, hence why, like, the same anchor with like why I made the investment in the first place, why I've continued to invest like time, money, energy into myself and like my expansion both internally and externally, because I have always had this knowing, like, it's so deeply ingrained in me, like, I just know it's what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm here to serve in a higher way. Like, I know so deeply, and I'm so grounded in the fact that I do have like such a deep sense of awareness of so much. And honestly like, it feels isolating sometimes, because that's a hard thing to explain to people. Like I said, it's not exactly a dinner conversation, but it's like, it's such a big part of me. And I feel like it's something that is it's something to be utilized in my service to the people of this world, which sounds like crazy, but it really doesn't at the same time, because like, I would not have this internal knowing, I would not be able to be so clearly connected and grounded at the same time if I weren't meant to use it for good. And I know my intention's good, my heart is pure, like, it's here for a reason, just like everything else, here for a purpose. And sharing it and voicing it out loud in a fucking 45-minute podcast episode that people probably won't listen to fully or whatever, like, this is unlocking a new level of freedom. Like, this podcast, I knew it was going to be medicine for me in some ways. Like, yeah, of course, it's meant to help people and serve you guys, and I want to do that with the words that I share. And at the same time, I know that this was just as much like an activation for me to start this podcast, put out this episode, as it was an activation for like sharing the wisdom and guidance that I have so deeply in me. So with that is all I'll get into for today. I mean, I could go more down the rabbit hole of how like finding other podcasts from, not just Monica's led me to the more like human design, life path number, all that stuff. Like, I never really knew anything about that whole world until like later summer 2024. Like, that's also somewhat of a newer development when you think of the whole scale of my life. But then again, feels like the past 2 years I've just like transformed completely. But at the same time, it's like not transformed into a different person. I've just become more of myself that's actually here, and shed so much of the crap and shit and beliefs, and like decondition myself from so much that's not actually true and authentic to my soul, so that I can serve, so that I can embody my purpose, so that I can be here to actually do what I came here to do. So I feel like this was the most flowy podcast episode that I've ever recorded, and it's probably because I'm speaking most authentically about something that now I feel so much more free to talk about. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it all the way, shout out. You're a real one. Love you. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll put out another episode next week, probably about making real changes in your life, like habits, routines, implementation, self-commitment. I personally hate the word discipline, low-key. Like, it could just be because I like grew up with such a regiment of quote-unquote discipline with sports and school and everything. It's just like, burn myself out so bad that like thinking about discipline actually makes me want to throw up. But self-commitment is like, we like self-commitment. Self-commitment helps us show up and be a better person with like consistency and reliability and actions and building trust, not like shame, rigidity, structure, like over routine, blah, blah, blah. So I'll put out another episode for you guys next week on that. That probably won't be 45 minutes long. And yeah, okay. Go be your most organic selves, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, I would so deeply appreciate if you left a rating and or a review of the show on either Apple or Spotify to help put this podcast in more people's ears. Follow along with me on my socials, which are tagged below, and I will see you in the next one.